The film begins by introducing Brad, a calm, responsible airline pilot. We see him walking through a busy airport carrying his pilot bag. While walking, he is on a video call with his young daughter. She asks him when he will come to see her. Brad smiles warmly and promises, "Let me finish this flight and I'll come see you very soon." His daughter becomes happy and excited after hearing this. Brad then enters the pilot cabin where he meets his fellow pilot. Both pilots talk casually about life and work. Brad clearly shows how deeply he loves his daughter and how she is the most important person in his life. He says, "We have only each other." Suddenly, Brad is called outside. An officer informs him about an emergency situation. A dangerous criminal named Tony must be transported on this flight. Tony is a powerful and highly dangerous killer. The officer says they are giving this responsibility because he is sensible and trustworthy. After thinking a moment, Brad agrees. Brad meets the rest of the flight crew, including the air hostess. They discuss whether all passengers have boarded. Once everyone is seated, the plane takes off smoothly. The flight continues normally for some time. Night slowly falls. Suddenly, the weather turns bad. Heavy clouds surround the plane. Brad becomes tense because something doesn't feel right. He asks all passengers to fasten their seatbelts. Brad tries to contact the control center through the radio, but there is no response. Slowly, all communication systems stop working. Suddenly, a violent electrical shock hits the plane. The aircraft shakes badly and loses stability. Brad rushes out to check the passengers. Thankfully, everyone is still alive, though extremely scared. The cabin lights begin to flicker and slowly turn off. Then another strong shock hits the plane. Brad falls and hits his head, getting injured. Despite the pain, Brad returns to the cockpit. Along with his fellow pilot, he struggles to control the plane. The screens show nothing. The radio is dead, and visibility is almost zero. Brad realizes that if another shock hits, the plane will completely break apart. He makes a quick decision. We must land immediately. As the plane descends, panic spreads among passengers. One woman unfastens her seatbelt. Seeing her, the officer escorting Tony also removes his belt. Suddenly, the plane jolts violently. Both of them are thrown and die instantly. The plane drops sharply, but Brad and his companion manage to stabilize it at the last moment. The air hostess informs Brad that passengers are terrified. Brad tells her to calm everyone and make them sit properly because they are going to land soon. Looking down, Brad notices an island below. With no other option, they decide to land there. After searching for a safe area, they make an emergency landing. The landing is rough, but the plane survives. Everyone is alive. Brad is relieved when he learns that some electricity is still working. He orders everyone to get off the plane safely. Meanwhile, at the airline headquarters, the owner of the airline company becomes worried. The plane has disappeared from radar, and there has been no contact for a long time. He cannot reach the crew and becomes very tense. Back on the island, the air hostess tells Brad that the officer escorting Tony is dead. Brad feels sad, but tells her to focus on protecting the passengers. Passengers start questioning why they landed there. Brad steps forward and explains calmly that it was an emergency landing. He assures them they have food, water, and shelter, and they will leave soon. At the same time, the airline owner meets a rescue expert, a specialist who tracks missing planes and people. The owner asks him to find everything about the plane, crew, and passengers. Brad checks the plane's systems, but realizes the power is extremely low and the radio still doesn't work. His fellow pilot checks a map and reveals something terrifying. They are on a private island controlled by a dangerous private army. These people are criminals, and if they harm anyone, no government will help. Brad understands they must call for rescue. He informs passengers that the radio is damaged, so he and Tony will go to the other side of the island to find help. Brad removes Tony's handcuffs, trusting him. Meanwhile, the leader of the private army learns that a plane has landed on the island. He sees this as an opportunity to kidnap passengers for ransom. He orders his men to prepare. In the jungle, Tony questions Brad about freeing him. Brad explains that everyone's lives are at risk, and Tony must help him face the armed criminals. Suddenly, Tony disappears. Brad searches alone and reaches an abandoned factory where he finds a broken radio. He fixes it and contacts a helpline, but due to signal issues, the message doesn't go through clearly. Brad records a message for his daughter, asking her to inform the airline office. Suddenly, a goon attacks Brad and knocks him unconscious. Brad wakes up and hides when he hears footsteps. It turns out to be Tony, who has killed several goons and taken their weapons. Tony arms Brad. They discover video recordings showing that the private army kidnaps people and demand money from their families. They realize the passengers are in serious danger. Back near the plane, private army arrives and starts shooting. They demand a list of passengers. When a woman tries to escape, they kill her. Brad wants to rush in, but Tony stops him. The goons load passengers onto buses and take them away. Brad is furious, but Tony explains that attacking alone would have meant certain death. Brad and Tony captured 2 goons and force them to reveal the passenger's location. Meanwhile, Brad's daughter informs the airline. The rescue expert locates the island, and a private tactical team is sent. Brad and Tony sneak into the factory, silently killing guards. They reach the room where passengers are held captive. Tony, filled with rage, kills the guards brutally. Brad frees the passengers and orders them back to the plane. Outside, Brad distracts the army leader while Tony escorts passengers away. Just as Brad is about to be killed, the private team arrives and attacks. A fierce gunfight begins. Passengers reach the plane. Brad and the private team repair it while fighting off attackers. Tony helps until his bullets run out. He finds a bag of money but chooses to fight instead. The plane is finally ready. Everyone boards. Tony stays behind with the money. When the army leader tries to destroy the plane with a rocket launcher, Tony kills him, saving everyone. Brad successfully takes off, escaping the island. Tony smiles and walks away. However, the plane is damaged again, forcing another emergency landing. But this time, everyone survives safely. Rescue teams arrive. Passengers cheer for Brad. He talks to his daughter, who cries with happiness, thanking God her father is alive. Brad smiles peacefully. The journey ends, but his bravery becomes unforgettable.